We're going to do some of the same techniques that Thea introduced you to this morning. Gary and I put together this program in 3 parts. One is going to be some brand new factual details that we've come about over the last several years in our research. Factual details that you've never seen before. Number 2, we're going to show you some new documents from a courthouse that you've never seen before. And we're in the process of, we've worked now about 4 years on this project. One of these days we will publish it, hopefully through the society, okay? And it's very, very revealing, and you're going to see it for the first time. And then number 3, with the DNA, and today you saw how Thea connected research and DNA together to come to some conclusions or to some theories. We're going to show you some of the same ideas and conclusions and theories. And hopefully, if we can get some DNA subjects, we can prove what I'm going to show you. Okay? As some of you know, we've been working in trying to get a Gann connection from Maryland to England. Now we all know over here, you see question mark Clement Gann. We all know from years past that a Clement Gann was brought to Maryland in 1660 as a headwright. And for years we've all looked for him and we could never find him. So he could have died there during his headwright, was buried out on the farm, no family, nobody did anything except bury him, and that was it. We looked for him in England. During that time period, we never found his name anyplace. Okay, now, here's what we found. In Maryland, we've got William here, number 1. And he died in 1693, left a will, and named his 2 sons, Samuel and John. He arrived in Maryland about 1673 as a headwright, and that's in the records. It's been published. You can look it up and see the original if you want to. Now, why did I put Clement there? If Clement came in 1660, Clement could have been sending word back home to England, and his younger brother could have come over here. Don't know. Question mark. Okay? So I'm just suggesting, I'm not telling you it's a fact, but we know that William was here, died, and left a will. Now let's take a look at William number 2. He died in Maryland in 1734. I'm leaving out lots of details because we don't need those right now. And he left a will and named a daughter Elizabeth, a son John, and a son William. And we got birth dates on them. So we don't know the relationship of these 2. Take the mic with you. Okay, next. Okay, now let's jump to Virginia, because we all know about Samuel and Elizabeth. You just saw on the other slide Samuel 1. And we know Samuel, in a court record, told us when he was born, 1675. When did he die? Well, we don't know. But in Joy's book, if you go back and read it, she talks about the 3 Samuels in Frederick County, Virginia. Now we know from the evidence that she presented that one of them died in 1750-52. Now, my theory is that was the Samuel who was born in 1675. He came with his son Samuel, whose birth date is technically unknown. On the internet you'll find him 02, 05, or whatever. I'm just saying circa 1700, just to give the old boy a place. We know he died from Joy's research and the original records we found in Virginia around 1755, 56 in Frederick County. And we know his wife was named Elizabeth because of the land court cases afterwards. Everybody follow? And now we know from Joy's great-great-great-grandfather, Samuel, in his Revolutionary War application, he says, I was born in 1748 in Frederick County near Winchester. So here we have 3 Samuels, 1, 2, and 3. How they're connected to the Williams in Maryland, we don't know yet. But we're going to find out. Next.
So the areas that still need additional research, as Bill said, we still need to find out how the Samuels connect to the Williams. And they could connect to both. They might only connect to one of those 2 Williams. We don't know yet at this point. And then we really want to know what the immigrant is. And we think it may be one of those 2 Williams. We know one of the Williams is an immigrant, the one who was brought over as a headwright. And if we can connect the Samuels to the Williams, and then we can connect the Williams to their English point of origin, we've crossed the pond, which has been the goal for years. So we still need to connect the Samuel line, as Bill said, and then we'll be able to go ahead with that as well.
Okay.
This is the big project that Bill alluded to that he's been working on.
Okay. So far, there's about 40 pages in this project. And, you know, I want to get it out there and get it published because we found some stuff that people have been speculating on for years. Well, you know, we've got it.
40 very detailed pages.
I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you folks, the stuff is out there if you take the time to dig. Okay. What we did in the basement of the courthouse in Washington County, Tennessee, Jonesboro, underneath the county clerk's office, there's records that go back to the 1770s. Some of them are organized in nice bound books, others are piles of papers in every way. Now, you know, down the street and around the corner at the university is the Archives of Appalachia. And Gary and I spent about 7 years there, several times a year, with Nina, Marie, Jean, and Helen going along to help us, sitting there 8 hours a day, going through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of paper, copying everything that had a Gann name on it. That's where we found the bulk of our original documentation. Okay, in the courthouse, we kept finding these long sheets of paper that were the militia tax lists, the originals.
And we found a few of them scattered in some of the court papers over at the archives also.
So, we started just Xeroxing copies of that, not paying much attention to it and taking it home. Well, eventually we started getting more and more and more of them. Next. Okay. And we started saying, hey, what does this mean? How can we use this? Blah, blah, blah. Well, pretty soon we were finding checks and zeros and ones and zeros. And we said, now what does this mean? So I went to my friend, whom you all met several years ago in Murfreesboro, the legislative historian, and said, Vince, we need your help. So he then sent us this published account by one of the archivists of the Tennessee poll tax laws, statutes from 1796 to the present day. An incredible find. So we went through it, you know, page by page, year by year, and extracted the time period from statehood to the 1850s.
Anyway, the tax laws change from time to time, so you have to know which law is in effect pertaining to the time period of the specific record you're looking at in order to extract the most information from that. So that's why we got this information and applied it to the tax lists that we had found from different times.
Now, the part of the chart here you don't see is the top part. It's these laws in North Carolina that were the laws for the territory of Washington County and Tennessee before statehood. But they're about the same. Now, here's what happens. These are the years. This is the white pole.
Take the mic with you.
White pole. That means how many white men above the age of 21 and below the age of 50 were living in the household. 21 to 50. Therefore, they had to pay tax. This column, a poll tax. This is the black or the slave poll tax. And they're the wages for the slaves. Now, if you were a constable or a person incapable of work, and you see each year changed, or if you were constables no longer, then free men of color all of a sudden were exempt. Then indigent, decrepit, or idiots were exempt. Then wounded in military action, and ministers of the gospel getting a free ride. So now we are going to use this, we're going to show you in the next slide, to determine birth years. Birth years. Okay. Now, look on the left. Tax year. The first document that we found on Adam Gann was in 1779. And it said, Adam Gann Sr. Not in my writing. Everything you see in that column is the way it was on the original. Skip the next column for the moment. The next is the yellow is the captain of the company. The whole area was in districts for militia companies, and it was the militia captain who collected the head tax. The next column is the white pole. Next column is the black pole. Next column is the number of acres. Then we added the right column for all kinds of little details to help us keep track of who was who. Because we've got Adams, we've got Williams, we've got Isaacs, we've got Thomases, we've got this one, we've got that one, and pretty soon, you know, who is who? Okay, so now, take a look at 1780, over here, we now know that Clement Gann came to Washington County on that date, because that is a court document about him on that date that is extant today. It's there, okay? Then we got Adam Gann Sr. again, and look, here's an inventory of his personal property. The man is there living. Now, forget those birth years at the moment. All right, then we hop down 81. This is a torn document, but what we've got is Gann, and then look at the number of acres and land at 210, that's the tax, 4 horses, the cash, and the amount of cash at 3 pounds and 4 pence cash. Okay, these are documents that relate to taxes. Now, at the bottom you see Nathan Gann, 1 white pole. He's the son of Adam and Jane. He probably rented this land and purchased it in 1790. We'll see that in a minute. He owned 4 horses and 1 cow in 1782. Last line there is Clement Gann, 1 white pole. That means he was under 50 years old and above 21. And he had 100 acres, and he's the son of Samuel and Elizabeth.
You'll see the notation from time to time, tax list missing. And this is important because we have worked with several different sources to pull together as many tax lists as we can find for the time period when the Ganns were present there in the county. Some years, however, are incomplete. We worked with mostly the original tax lists when we could find them, because we wanted to get back as close to the original source as possible to avoid errors or omissions in copying as the information was brought forward, or in transcription as people transcribed it to publish. So we went to the original lists, which were compiled by the militia captain and brought into the county clerk, so the county clerk could put together that year's tax list. Some of those originals are missing. In the tax book, you can tell that some of them didn't survive long enough even to get copied in. And then in some of the transcriptions, you find people have published just certain years and left out others. But between all of those, we have as complete a compilation as we can put together now of the tax list references to Ganns in Washington County.
Okay, remember I told you earlier I was going to show you the birth year of Adam Gann Sr. Got the proof, folks, and here it is.